Hi, welcome to Passion for Life with Dee and Friends, and I'm Dee, and I'm here with my friends, and we're going to be sharing about our passions. And today actually we're talking about caregiving, which is actually one of my passions, because I've been a caregiver since I don't know, oh gosh, probably when I was about a kid. So probably 8, 9 years old, I was taking care of children, my brothers and my sisters, and then I just progressed to who I am now. But it's all about sharing and caring, and I feel power is not, your knowledge is power. So I'm sharing my power with you all and with my friends. And hey, I'm Dee, and I just wanted to say hi to Diane.
Hi, Dee.
I'm so glad you're here. And
I'm glad I'm here.
You're going to be leaving us for at least a month.
I'm going to be really busy.
She's moving on to do
my
her
passion
thing.
is acting, and I have a very busy schedule coming on. So I have a very busy month. So you're not going to see me for a while. But I wanted to. I've been with Dee for 6 months since January, and I want to thank you. And these are for you.
Thank you. So sweet.
Oh, that's pretty.
And let me tell you, I have to say, she was amazing. She has helped me so much, because I don't know whether I would have been able to manage the 6 months God put you in my life. During that time, I was going through it.
Your sidekick.
I was doing my caregiving. Yeah, you were my good friend, and you helped me get through this, because she put me on the map, though. And she shared, and she introduced, and she did things that I couldn't do at that point, because I had so much going on. So I truly
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank you for the opportunity. It was great. We had a lot of fun, a lot of great guests.
Yeah. Well, it's not
And
over.
you're going to have a lot of great guests coming on.
Yeah.
So
And it's not over, you know. It's
I'll
like,
be here
hey,
as you guest.
I know you'll be here.
I'll
and
be back.
Sharing your passions
Yes.
and all that kind of good stuff. And,
And,
life's good.
and if I could mention, I'm into world peace. And my friend Pete DiLorenzo, I want to give a shout out. October 4th is World Peace Corporation Day. He's the ambassador chief for the UN, and he's going to be streaming live October 4th all day with ambassadors, people, artists. My friend Michael will be having a song. A lot of different song artists will be on. And let's all give, a shout out to peace and to the world.
Hey, we have to.
All we are saying is give peace a chance.
Right. Well,
Peace
it's
a
all
chance.
about caregiving to everybody.
everybody.
So it is amazing, and we have to keep that together. So we have a friend that actually was here a couple of weeks ago sharing about disasters, and now she's here sharing about some other good stuff. So thank you, Linda, for pitching in. She's always pitching in at the last minute, because we had somebody else planned and she had to cancel. But share your passion with us, please.
Well, thank you, Dee. I'm Linda Fostek, and I'm the crisis planner. So what's a crisis planner? I don't want you to plan to have a crisis. I want you to plan to be prepared for whatever life dishes your way.
Right.
And today we're going to be addressing an area that is a crisis for a lot of people. Most of us don't plan to become caregivers.
No, we don't.
And suddenly it's thrust upon us, and it changes your life. It turns it upside down and inside out. And many of us wouldn't have it any other way, because it really is something we do out of love and caring for our loved ones.
Yeah.
But it also, we pay a price for it.
Yeah, we do. We do. Well, I'll tell you, it's like right now, all three of us have been caregivers for a long time. And I think it's a really good show to have, because I wanted this show for a long time, and I really did want Diane to be here. So even though maybe we could have had something else, because it is world peace and all that kind of good stuff, but I think this caregiving is going to be
a good show.
A good show.
I think so,
Because
too.
it's going to give a lot of our friends out there a whole lot of good information and our experience that they're not alone doing this stuff, So it's kind of important. So.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about some of the rewards and the challenges of being a caregiver. And we're also going to be looking at some of the ways we can make it easier on ourselves. Because I think the biggest obstacle we all face is that we don't know what resources are available out there to help you.
Exactly. So true.
And, the saddest thing is that the people that need those resources the most are the ones that are really don't know where to look.
Right.
And, you know, reaching out to them and letting them know that they're not alone in this,
Mm-hmm.
that there are people out there that are willing to help.
Yes, yes.
There are organizations and there are places that they can go. I mean, many of the towns here on Long Island have all kinds of support things available for caregivers
yeah,
and for the people
yeah.
that they're caring for. So it really is something that needs to be talked about.
Well, I'll tell you, when I first became, well, as I said, I was a caregiver from way back when. But when I started caring for my father and my grandmother, my father was my first, and I didn't know where to start. And so I started just asking people. And the fact that the ambulance driver or the nurse or whoever I was encountering, I would ask questions because that was the only way. And all of a sudden you start looking and seeing, because I don't even think, we had computers and we had certain resources, but it was more not that way. And so you really kind of had to go to the books and the telephone numbers. I called Social Security, and actually Social Security gave me some names and numbers, and I was able to reach out to those folks. And people are very, very helpful. So it is just like you have to ask. You have to ask for the help.
Absolutely. That
you
is
know?
really the
So
key.
if you don't ask, how they know that you need help? You know? So
And especially out here in suburbia, where people are so isolated. I mean, the individual who needs care becomes
Yeah.
isolated when they no longer can drive.
right.
They, you know, and the more isolated they become, the more detached they become from the community. And, you know, where before they probably had support from their church, from, you know, different
Yeah,
community
exactly,
organizations and things
exactly.
that they were doing. And suddenly they're ill and they are stuck in the house with really not knowing what resources are out
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And their caregiver frequently is also stuck in the house with them.
Yeah.
Well, my dad passed away 5 years ago, and I took care of my mom. She was well for 4 years, and there were signs that she was doing that I didn't even know it was dementia was coming. So I didn't know how to deal with it, and I didn't know what was going on. So I used to get very frustrated. And then as it was getting worse and I knew what was going on, you know, I was helping her through it, but then it became too much for me. So we have a full-time aide now with her, Arlene, who is, I couldn't ask for anybody better than her and her daughter that take care of my mom. But, you know, there's questions that I had. I didn't know how to deal with certain things. I never saw it before. I've heard of dementia, and I
Right.
never, you know, saw it actually in front of me. And now, you know, now seeing this, I want to help other people, you know, and teach them how to deal with it. Because that person is still your mom and she's still here. And
Right.
I want to, you know, how to love and how to still be that with that
Right.
person.
Yeah, and that's important because I know with myself, I've been the caregiver, but then you don't realize that they're having challenges, you know, because
Sometimes you're too close.
well, or you don't, you know, they're handling their business. So I know with my dad initially, that was my first bout with the elderly, and I just happened to go by there, and I said he didn't look good, but I had, you know, he's doing his thing, so I wouldn't go over there, but I call them once in a while and whatever, and life's good because they're handling their business. Everybody's doing their thing. But then when you go over and you say, wait a minute, you're not looking good. And I
Well,
said,
we're coming into that season now. You know, a lot of people, you know, that don't live close to their loved ones, and they get together for the holidays. I know that we've got the Jewish holidays coming up this week, Rosh Hashanah. Then you have, you know, Thanksgiving and Christmas,
Right,
and
right.
sometimes family members haven't seen their loved one in a year, and suddenly they're like, "Oh my God, the house is filthy.
right.
Look at how
Exactly,
they're dressed.
exactly,
But, you know, there's no
exactly,
food in the
exactly,
refrigerator, and it's
exactly.
like this wake-up call
Yes,
that
and-
their loved one needs help.
Exactly, and that's exactly what happened. My father was in some kind of little trial or with some hospital or whatever, and the doctor finally did get in contact with me because he was apparently coming a little more disheveled and what have you, and
Not
and
bathing or
it wasn't as what he was used to, but nobody contacted us. So you kind of think everything's okay until you see it's not. And ultimately, it was like, oh my gosh. And I ended up saying, I'm going to take you to the doctor the next day. But when I got there the next day, he was out of it. And came to find out he had kidney disease, hypertension, all kinds of other stuff. And we had to put him on dialysis ultimately.
Right.
And his memory was really bad because his creatinine levels were so high. His body, everything was so toxic, you know? So it was like so bad. So you don't really know until you see it. And then once you see it, you're kind of like, oh boy, you have to jump into action. And it was challenging. It was so challenging. And so you don't know what to do. What doctor? I started calling people, can you refer me to doctors? Because you don't want to just bring anybody into their lives.
Right, right.
You know,
and
because
you want somebody that's really going to recognize what they really need. Because sometimes, you know, someone coming in without knowing history, without knowing anything, it gets very muddled.
Didn't your mom, too, have a little bit of it, or is she?
Well, with Mommy, that's another situation. I had Grandma. She was 101. Her memory started going, and probably about 95, 96, and she was always so sharp. Very strong woman. No challenges whatsoever. Went to the center every day, was doing her thing. But then I noticed she wasn't paying bills. Okay? And it was she would go and open them and say, pay now. But
and it wouldn't happen.
It wasn't happening.
Wasn't happening.
And I remember one day I happened to go by there, and I think let's say the gas called, and they were like, well, we're going to turn off the gas. I was like, okay, Grandma, when's the last time you paid the gas? And come to find out that she hadn't paid in like 6, 7, 8 months. And it was basically, I looked at everything, and she was getting ready to go away because she was one of these people that always would go somewhere. And she was going with the church group. And I said, when you get back, Grandma, we got to talk. So ultimately, at that point, I just took over all the bills, put it on pay bill, what have you. You really have to be proactive because you think they're doing okay, right. And they aren't.
Well, and those are like some of the essential activities of daily living that people don't realize. I mean, there's communication. Are they calling and talking to their family members? If they've been on the computer, are they still on the computer? Then there's transportation. How are they getting around?
Right.
Then there's meal preparation.
That's what it was too.
You know, they're not eating.
But they think they're eating. When they're having challenges like that.
Okay,
a lot of times
they're eating cereal or whatever.
Or they're not eating. They think because
they think they did.
My grandmother was telling me she was going to the center every day. Come to find, and after a while, the centers would call me because they had my information, and they're like, "We haven't seen her in 2 or 3 weeks." But because she had been doing that activity for so long, she thought she was still doing it. You know, so it was, and the fact that she didn't even have dementia, she actually had carotid artery disease,
right, which was causing
the
symptoms.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's, you have to find a good doctor. Right. Because you go to the specialist. I noticed that she was having short-term memory loss. I took her to specialists, and they
want to go dementia or Alzheimer's. They're not necessarily going to do the carotid Doppler.
Well, the thing is, if you don't take them to the right doctor, they're not going to touch that part.
So true, so true.
They don't even touch that part. So it's like, wait a minute, hold on. Why aren't we focused? We're just focusing on the heart. We're just focusing on the brain.
We're just, medicine is so compartmentalized now.
Really. You know? So ultimately, I took her to the generalist, and that's who was able to diagnose her. And it was like, 75% block at that point.
Yeah.
So what do you do at 90-something years old?
Do you want to put them through the Roto-Rooter? You know, it's too much.
You just
they can't handle
it. Yeah. It don't make no sense. So it's so much.
Additional things that they are concerned about is shopping. You know, they stop shopping. You open the refrigerator, there's nothing in there.
Yeah.
You're also looking at the housework. You know, if somebody who's always fastidious suddenly, you know, things aren't clean. First of all, they can't see as well, so they think it's clean and it's not really clean. And you look at it and you go, "Oh my God!" You know, handling their medication. Are they taking their medication when they're supposed to? Like your grandmother probably thought she was taking her medication.
Well,
and
she
it
had
wasn't.
no medication.
Okay, that's a good thing, because a lot of times you'll ask,
Yeah,
"Did you take
yeah,
your pills?"
yeah,
and they'll say,
yeah,
"Oh yes,"
yeah,
and they're
yeah,
you
yeah.
go and the pill box is
Yeah.
still full.
Yeah.
And then the other item that you addressed was the financial side.
Right.
They're not paying their bills.
They weren't
you
paying.
know.
She wasn't paying anything. Well, I remember one time I went there and the refrigerator wasn't right. And I went into the freezer. Apparently, it was broken. And she didn't, it was just kind of keeping it lukewarm.
Oh,
And so when you go into a lukewarm refrigerator and the freezer was just, I just had to throw everything away.
right.
It was moldy and I
And
don't
then
know.
you had to scour everything.
You should have seen me. I didn't know how I did it. I don't even know how I got it done. But
Oh, yeah.
by the grace of God, I was able to get it all done and what have you. And it's the house was a wreck. They had mice and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, oh, but you don't realize until you realize. And then
Right.
when you're in there, you're like,
Mhm.
okay. And then, and she didn't want nobody to help her.
Well, that's the other thing.
That they need. See, my
It's
mom-
very difficult to get them to accept the fact that they need help.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you're trying to bring somebody from the outside in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one thing
It
if you're
would be.
helping your mom. It's
Right.
one thing if you're helping your dad. It's I have a husband that's got disabilities. I also got a 92-year-old mother with dementia that we're having some issues with this week, and so I know that it's much easier when it's somebody they know, because strangers they don't necessarily react well to, and it's very difficult to find somebody that you
Yeah.
trust.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And when we first got the person to take care of my mom, I did spend time, and we made it like she was a friend, And she said, I said, Mom, I used to give her the shower, and I said, Arlene's going to give you a shower, and she says, okay. And I was really shocked to hear that from her, that she was allowing her to, see her undress, go into the shower, and she embraced her right away, which we were
That
very
was
lucky, because
blessing,
I know some people have tempers. My mother's very quiet, and I know some people with dementia that I heard they have
They have
tantrums
their
and,
moments.
Everybody's different. Everybody's
Yeah,
different
exactly.
when it comes to that.
I know, like my mom, suddenly she stopped showering. Okay, showering was never her thing. She always liked tubs, but she was afraid of the tub, so she wasn't going anywhere near the water. And it was like, my sister and I would take, and we found out that she would only shower at night before bed. So, because if we tried to shower her at any other time during the day, I don't need it, I'm not going, no, 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 no. And so if it was before bed where she was going to change into her nightgown and everything, okay. So we could get her into the shower. But once we moved her from the regular assisted living to the memory unit, where the staff took care of the showering, she doesn't give anybody a hard time. I mean, she gave us a hard time, but she's not giving them a hard
And she
time.
is, now you took her to a place where she feels comfortable.
Yeah,
Friends,
and
yeah.
they're wonderful there.
Yeah.
They really are wonderful there. But, I mean, the things with dementia and Alzheimer's, and the reason that people become, quote unquote, diagnosed is there's like 5 daily living activities that they judge them on. And if they can't perform these things, then they definitely know they need help. And that's, the bathing, dressing, eating, and then it's about transit from bed to, getting out of bed, getting out of a chair, and then finally, okay, what's the 5th one? My brain is like addled at the moment. Toileting.
Yes.
They become incontinent. They have, they're wearing the Depend,
like my mom.
and that becomes a challenge.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those 5 daily living activities are really, between them and then the essential daily living activities, the more of those the caregiver embraces or takes on, the more stress is on the caregiver.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
And the average caregiver is doing almost 5 of these activities on a daily basis.
Yes, yes.
So that puts tremendous stress on that caregiver. I mean, it's like, I actually did some research before this show because I really wanted to get a handle on this whole caregiving thing. And AARP, Public Policy Institute, and also the National Alliance of Caregiving did this huge report. It's like 85 pages. It's huge.
Yeah.
And I tried to pull out some of the stuff that I thought was useful. And basically, 1 in 3 of us will be a caregiver at some point in our lives. Right now, Long Island has a population of about 3 million people, and they estimate 1 million caregivers.
Easy.
Most of us are, the average age of the caregiver is about 49 years old. Most people are caring for people with long-term medical issues, you know, like almost 60%. There's some short-term caregiving as well, and a lot of people will use their family leave to do that if someone has a knee replacement or a hip replacement, and or even when they have a heart surgery, you know they're going to recover, and then they're going to be able to get back to their daily life. You know, some of the caregiving is temporary, but 22% of the caregivers are caring for people with serious memory issues. And those are the people that really become isolated because their family and friends tend to shun the person with the memory issue because they don't know what to say, they don't know how to react, they don't know how to be around them, which then further isolates the caregiver. You know, and then what really happens is if they're siblings, which you know, the caregiver is living it day to day, every day, and taking the abuse from their loved one and doing whatever needs to be done, whether it's changing their diaper or pulling the, you know, the feces out of something that they painted the wall with, or, you know, I mean, behavior can be really bizarre and frightening at times. And then the other siblings come once in a while, and their mom is on their best behavior, or the father is in there. What are you talking about? We don't understand. You know, you're lying. I don't believe you. And now you're like, now you become like really even ostracized more from your family. And it just becomes this snowball effect.
Yeah, it's very challenging.
You know, fortunately, in most cases, the caregiver does have help from other family members.
Sometimes.
But 30% of them are all by themselves. 30% have no help at all. 30% have some paid assistance that may cover a few hours.
We're going to talk some more about that because that's really key, and about really how we can select our help and what have you and get the help. So, but we're going to take a real quick break, so we'll be right back.
Welcome to Formula Auto Wash, where every day is a great day for a car wash. Open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. till 5:30 p.m. Sundays 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. Detailing packages for every budget, starting out at $29.99. 100% hand wash and detail centre. Hot hair and microfiber brushes and mitts. Proudly using Ecolab Blue Coral soaps and waxes. Formula Auto Wash has served the community for over 30 years. Senior discounts all day, every day. Ladies' Day Wednesday, $3 off any wash. Early bird discount Monday through Thursday till 9:30 a.m. Check out our website, formulaautowash.com.
For professional motorcycle transport and towing, think Kickstart Fabrications Motorcycle Towing. Proudly serving all of Long Island, we feature expert handling and 24/7 service. So send a limo for your toy with Kickstart Fabrications Motorcycle Towing.
Galaxy Luxury Coach is a full-service limousine and party bus company. Family-owned and operated, we are an industry leader with over 25 years of experience in providing best-in-class luxury transportation for your special event. Whether it's your precious wedding day, an all-day wine tour out east, your high school prom, that special birthday, or just an amazing night on the town, Our professional chauffeurs stand ready to ensure your special event is truly special. Galaxy Luxury Coach has one of the largest and modern party bus fleets in the New York area. Our party buses are simply nightclubs on wheels. Concert sound systems, light shows, lasers and strobes, multicolor LED lighting brilliantly lights your party bus inside and out. For corporate and more laid-back events, we will cater to your specific needs and requests. What sets Galaxy aside from all others in the luxury transportation industry is our attention to detail in customizing our services to your special event. At Galaxy, it's all about you and your guests. Galaxy customers return time and time again because they know they can trust Galaxy to help deliver those lifetime memorable moments. Step aboard and let your Galaxy experience begin.
Hi, welcome back to Passion for Life with Dee and Friends. And I'm Dee, and here's my friends, and we're talking about caregiving, and we're still talking about family members and helping, and who we can get to help us, because sometimes the family members aren't there, so then we have to go and get people like caregivers or nursing aides or what have you, and then it's kind of scary because sometimes you don't know who you have in your house, and they are certified and they're obligated to have certain qualifications and stuff like that, but sometimes they're just not who you want
Right.
to
It's
take
not,
care.
they don't have the same,
Skill sets,
no,
compassion.
their caring
Yes,
isn't there.
yeah.
Their heart isn't in the same place. And when you
Yeah.
do find somebody whose heart is able to connect with the person that they're taking care of and with the family does have such peace of mind. You
Yeah.
had
Yes.
you have
Yeah.
peace of mind.
Yeah, she wakes up in the morning. She's very religious, and I told her, I said today we were going to do this on the show, and I said, how do you do it? And she says, really from God. She feels God gives her the strength within, and she wakes up with her and she prays and she puts music and they watch TV and she
That's
colors her hair. and
phenomenal.
She's like from the minute they wake up till she goes to sleep, she's hands on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you're so
I
blessed
am
to have
so
somebody that
blessed
you
to
can
have
that
that.
you can trust with
Yes.
your, with somebody that you love with all your heart,
Right.
and you don't want any harm to come to your loved
Right.
one.
And for family, on Thanksgiving, last Thanksgiving, talking about Thanksgiving, my mother couldn't leave and she wanted to be with my mom. So what they did, she's from Jamaica, and they brought the whole family, 16 of her relatives, to our house, cooked a Jamaican Thanksgiving dinner,
Oh
and
wow,
celebrated with my mom. But
that's
they didn't want to
special.
leave her. So
Now, is your mom live close to you, or is she?
she's like a half an hour. I was there
Okay,
today.
that's not too
I
bad.
run back and forth with my busy schedule. I make sure that I see my mom a lot. And, it's a lot on me, too. I
Yeah.
love my mom. I'll do anything for her. But it is like, it takes a toll.
It's like the full circle.
Yeah.
You know,
Very
the
emotional.
person
It's a
that
very
cared for
emotional-
you
Yes.
is now in need of your care,
Right.
Yeah.
and it's wonderful that
Yeah.
you want to make sure that she's taken care of.
Right.
So many people are so totally alone,
Yeah.
and they really don't have
Yeah,
family that's
yeah.
there to take care of them.
That's the truth.
And that's really scary. I mean, with all the experience I've had in the last 2 weeks with my own mom, I'm an advocate for her. My sister is also very involved. The two of us are we were at the hospital every day. We're at the rehab center every day. I get to go at different hours because I don't have a 9-to-5 job, so I can be there at different times and see how she's doing, or what kind of care she's getting. And I sit there and I say, even with what my sister and I are doing, things happen. And I can't imagine the poor people who have nobody
Yeah.
to look out for them,
Yeah.
because they are really in danger, because
Yeah.
they can't,
Yeah.
no matter how good a facility is, they can't possibly be with your loved one every second
This is
of
so
every
true.
day.
That's so true. Actually, I was basically with my dad. My dad, I had my grandma. So it was between me and my grandma taking care of him. So I was really happy that she was there for me. And then when grandma Daddy passed, and then grandma actually was really good, but then the memory and what have you. And she was losing weight because she wasn't eating. She thought she was doing certain things. So we finally had somebody there for a couple hours a day. And initially she was, I really don't want anybody here. I was like, why, Grandma? You think everything's okay? Yeah, everything's good. I'm like, you're leaving the stove on. You're doing this. You're doing that. And she didn't realize that she was doing that. And she was like, I think you're mistaken. And I'm like, well, Grandma, no, I'm not. We are really having this challenge right now because I remember my husband actually went by there and found the stove on. And so he told me, so I went to her and I told her, I said, well, Morris came by and found the stove on. So she gave me this look and I said, well, you think he was lying? No, he just was mistaken, right? So I was like, okay. So that afternoon I went right over to the stove and the stove was on again. I said, okay, Grandma, come here. Feel the stove.
Yeah, but she's not going to remember that you told her anyway.
I know. It was challenging.
It's really, when somebody has dementia, there is no point in arguing with them or telling them, you told me that before, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
To them, it's the first time they're saying it.
Right.
And it's easier on you when you just agree with them.
Right.
It's like, okay.
There's certain things like I deal with it, but I want to learn more because there's I live in Oyster Bay, and there's a 3-building like a rehab center for dementia. And I met 2 nurses the other day, and I asked them if I could come by there one day and visit with different patients because I want to see, how different people are. Because sometimes I'm in denial. Like seeing what's going on with my mom. I mean, I'm there. I know it's dementia, but I want to talk to the different patients and see what else I could do to help. And learn. I guess that's kind of preparing
and it also
myself
helps you cope with what's going on.
Right.
If you understand that, to them it's the moment, and the moment may be 50 years ago. And I mean, like my mom was talking about, I saw Eleanor the other day. And I said, Eleanor, where does she live? On Inwood Street. My mother hasn't lived on Inwood Street for 80 years.
Yeah.
And she was back there playing with her friend Eleanor, And it's just, really? And, is she well? You just kind of keep it going, whatever she wants to talk about,
Well, I say yes, she's talking and she's mumbling. I have no idea what she's saying, but I go with the conversation and I make believe really, Mom? And she smiles because I want her to feel like
she's still engaging in a conversation.
Right.
It's really hard. It's really hard on everybody.
For me. It's very emotional.
No, it is very, very
I mean, when
difficult.
my father-in-law had probably early signs of dementia for a long time that nobody picked up. And, my mother-in-law was sharp as a tack. So they drove everywhere. And we didn't realize that he was so bad until she went into the hospital, which was like 10 minutes from the house. It took him 2 hours to get home from the hospital. And what we discovered is that for years, she was the one who was telling him where to turn.
Yeah.
That he had no idea where he was.
Right.
He had the coordination and the function of being able to drive, but she had to tell him where they were going. And when she got sick, we realized that he really shouldn't be driving. And then, of course, when we took the car away, that was like...
Forget about it. Well, I'll tell you, my father, because of the creatinine levels and what have you and the toxins, his memory was so bad. I remember he used to pick me up to go travel because I always loved to travel. So he would pick me up to take me to the airport. So one day I'm waiting outside for about half hour. Now I'm stressing, right? He was at the wrong place for about a good 45 minutes because he was early. So at that point, I said that was the last time. I just decided to do the cab. And he actually gave up his cars early. He
figured it out.
He knew.
Yeah, my mother figured it out too. She stopped driving.
He said, I'm good. Yeah. So Grandma... Not so. It took her a little longer. She was probably 89 when she finally. Yeah. She was very resistant, but and she didn't really want anybody. So we had the part-timer for a little bit. And then we finally, she ended up in the hospital, and we got somebody that was full-time. And she wasn't the best person, but we were afraid to really go and get somebody else because we thought we might get somebody worse. So, but the thing is, I would never do that again. If that person's not who you want, you need
Definitely
to try
speak up.
again
Speak
and
up.
try again and try again until you find that next
The
person.
right fit.
Right.
Because we just let her stay. And she was a nice lady, but my mom, she was bossy. And my grandmother didn't appreciate that. And I remember one time we were there, and she was calling her to come to breakfast or dinner or whatever. And she wasn't ready. We were there having company. So at one point, apparently she did this all the time. When she would go to the center, oh, I'm ready to go. And my grandma would say, go. I'll find my way home.
Oh, boy.
Okay? 'Cause
Oh, boy.
but at this point, she was like, I'm going to slap the
Uh-oh.
out of her. And I was like, Grandma, you didn't say that. She says, yeah, because I don't like her.
See, yeah, she was verbal. My mother's quiet.
Oh,
It's
my
different.
grandmother,
Everybody's
no,
different.
my
Right.
grandmother was sharp.
Oh, sharp.
She was sharp. She just had a little bit of memory loss because
Right,
of
right.
the carotid arteries. Short-term memory. But she knew that lady was not the one, okay?
That was, and she was trying to tell you.
Yeah, she told us. She let us know. And at that point, something happened. We ended up having another lady come, and she was not clean and ended up getting bed bugs. So you have to be really
Oh, boy.
careful of all of that. And ultimately, we had a referral from the church. And also, that's why you have to let people know.
Right,
Because
right.
oh, I have somebody that would be perfect for her. And that she was wonderful.
Well, I'll tell you, there is hope for caregivers, though. And certainly, the state of New York is very well aware of it. In fact, this coming week, there's going to be a big workshop that is really about caregivers in suburbia. And that's going to involve AARP. They're looking, the National Aging in Place Council is going to be there. It's going to have the New York State, Nassau County, Suffolk County Centers for Aging are going to be there. Stony Brook Medical is going to be there. And a number of other groups are going to be participating in this workshop that is really looking at how do we get the resources to the caregivers and to those that aging population, which Long Island is really aging at this point. We really are a product of the baby boom. So you have all these baby boomers that are aging, and their parents are aging now too, are getting quite elderly. So it's like they're really looking at how do we get the resources to the people that really need them. And then there's a couple of other organizations here on Long Island that, there's a National Aging in Place Council, which has chapters all over the country, which is great. And what that is a conglomeration of all these individual business people that come together that have all these different services that they offer, everything from daily money management to caretaking to finding the right services you need, whether they're live-in or part-time or just for the essential living things, or do they need assistance with medical things? So there's all these different agencies that do different levels of care. Things like what I do, which is really help people prepare and plan for what's going, for the disasters that are impending, and deal with the crisis that they're in. I mean, one of my friends actually has a website which is a resource for accessibility. If you go to the botanical garden, can you bring a wheelchair? Or
That's
is it all
smart.
stairs?
Yeah.
So she's looking at restaurants and
that's cool.
theaters and
Yeah.
things like that to see
Yeah.
whether it's going to be accessible for people
No.
with disabilities.
Definitely.
And I was going to just ask you that, how people that are listening, and you're answering the sources that people need to go to.
Yeah, they can go to the National Aging in Place Council, and once you go to that website, which is National Aging in Place lifewith.com. Then you can go to the Long Island chapter and see all the resources that are available there. There's also the Long Island Family Caregivers Coalition, and they're actually a fairly new group, and they publish a quarterly magazine called Caregiver, and in fact, they did a interview on me this month in this issue, but this also lists all the resources that are part of the Caregiver Coalition.
Yeah.
So, and that includes your respite care, anything that you're
Yeah.
looking for, transportation. There are people doing all of those activities.
Yeah.
And also with the Aging in Place Council, we have a list of all the resources
Very
as well.
good.
So there are so many opportunities for people to reach out. And, and respite care is one of the things that I think very few people take advantage of.
What is respite care?
Well, if you're a full-time caregiver, or even if you're a part-time caregiver, which some of the statistics on that was kind of interesting too, the average caregiver is doing 24 hours of caregiving. While they're, that's the part-time caregiver. The full-time caregiver is over 40 hours a week in caregiving. Many of them still have jobs, some working full-time, part-time.
Yeah.
Obviously, this caregiving is interfering with their ability to keep their jobs in some cases. If they're hourly employees, it's drastically reducing their wages because they're taking care of their loved ones.
Yeah.
And ultimately, in some cases, it's even affecting their potential Social Security payout because Social Security is calculated on your last 7 years of employment. So if at that point you are working less hours and earning less money, it could ultimately impact your future payments when you need it. And what also happens is a lot of times caregivers are spending their own money to take care of their loved ones.
Absolutely.
So they're spending their 401k plans, not realizing that there are ways and resources there. I mean, I've had situations where the person that was being cared for passes away and the family starts going through stuff, and they find a long-term care policy in the drawer that they didn't even know existed.
Exactly.
Or they find a life insurance policy, a whole life policy that has cash value that they
Right.
could have used
Yeah,
that
exactly.
money
The rainy day.
when their loved one was still alive, as
exactly.
opposed to a death benefit. If they
Exactly.
needed the money, then do that. And recently, I also found out that a lot of people say, well, when they go on Medicaid, you have to turn over all your assets.
Community Medicaid. There's a difference.
When you do community Medicaid,
exactly.
there is no
Exactly.
5-year look
No, it
back,
doesn't.
and you can get in-home
Exactly.
care
Right away.
immediately.
And that's what I found, because I asked, at one point my grandmother she had Medicare, she had her home, and I didn't know what to do.
And she
ended
needed help?
She needed help. So what I did was, she was getting the outtake out of the nursing home, out of the rehab.
Right.
And a lady called me because I'm working and I'm trying. Yeah, I'm
You're
there every day.
juggling.
I'm juggling, and so this lady calls me as a nurse, and she's like, "Well, I know you couldn't be here, but you'll pick her up later." Because I was like, "Okay, I had to go to work, but I'll pick her up." So they did the outtake over the phone. And so I'm like, I don't know what to do. But right now, what I'm going to do is take her to my mother-in-law's house. So she says, well, I have an agency because a lot of people say go to elder lawyers or do this or that, and they're expensive. Okay, the elder lawyers are very expensive. Well, there was a group, and it's in Brooklyn. And
See?
it's called...
Resources.
Exactly. And I'm trying to remember the name, and I'm so bad, but I will remember the name before we finish. I called them up. I got the number, and I called them up.
And they got the community Medicaid.
They told me about this community Medicaid. I had it within 5 days.
It's a blessing.
Because they were my advocates. I paid them, I think it was $2,500 or $2,000. It was worth it.
Right.
Everybody said, well, you can do it yourself. And, well, you know what? They filled all my papers. They just told me what I needed.
Right.
And I was like, it's their money. They can let me do. I need the help. So they got it. I got 24/7 care, just like that.
And
they didn't, because they said, make sure you don't have a certain amount of money in your checking in their
in the bank accounts.
And they can have a house because they're living in that house.
Right.
It's not a problem.
They don't have to turn their house
They don't have
over.
to turn anything over, and the the Social Security has to be a certain amount. But if it's over that amount or what have you, then they have to pay a spend down, which is, let's say you're getting 24/7 care and you're paying $300 a month. Oh,
I think you could deal with
I
that.
think we could do that. You know?
Exactly.
So it's I didn't know. Because everybody was like, oh, Medicaid, they're going to look
They
back
take the house
5
and-
years, you can't do this. No, that's not true.
It's not true.
And even if you are in an institution, that's not true. If somebody else, if your wife is living in that
Right.
house, they're not going to take the house.
They're not going to take the house.
You know? So there may be certain things that they look back.
But most people don't. They, you know, it's you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
and there's
exactly.
so much misinformation
Yes.
out there that people are just, you know, oh, don't get a reverse mortgage, or don't do this,
Exactly.
or don't do that.
Exactly.
But there are so many protections in place right now that investigate all these things because
Exactly.
you may be cash poor and house rich.
Yeah.
And, you know, most of our parents and our grandparents, their houses are long paid for, and they bought them for $5,000
Yes,
when they bought them.
exactly.
So their mortgages have been paid off for years, but
Right.
they're worth $500,000 now,
Right,
or, you know,
exactly.
or something. They can tap into that money,
Right.
still own their home, and there's all kinds of protections in place.
Exactly.
So, you know, like what I have really, my mission is to really help people be prepared for this. So how do you prepare? Well, you know, one of the things, you know, I know you said your grandmother didn't want to talk about it.
Right.
Nobody wants to talk about it. Your parents don't want to tell you anything. They don't want, oh, you might take my money, or
don't even
I don't
wanna
know
write
what
a
their
will.
problems are. They don't ever think they're going to get sick.
Right.
But one of the things I do tell people is I have this little book. It's called And Now What?
Uh-huh.
All right. And all this is really a workbook.
Right.
And, you know, if you can get the information down before there's a crisis, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
But it allows you to put all the information in one place.
That's
The
important.
who,
Yeah.
what, the contact, you know, the contact numbers, the account numbers of everything. Talking, you know, and allow you to talk about things,
Yeah.
especially like banking. You need to have co-signers on
Right,
the bank
exactly,
accounts.
exactly.
Otherwise, that money is frozen when they die. It gives you a whole list of all the documents you should have
Yeah,
with this.
yeah.
You know, and, you know, we're losing our World War II veterans at some ridiculous rate. I mean, like 10,000 a day are dying.
Yeah.
Okay? If they want that military tribute at their funeral,
Yeah.
you have to find their DD 214.
Right. Really.
You know, they have to have that in order to get their military tribute. Wouldn't it be nice to have it in advance together with all
Right,
this stuff instead
right.
of having to scramble for it for the funeral, you know, making phone calls saying, I need this because I want the flag draped over the coffin. You know, so a lot of people have family plots.
Yeah.
And, you know, is the loved one going to be buried in that family plot? Well, who was the last one who had the deed to the family
Right,
plot? Who
right.
was the last person buried in that family plot? So the funeral planning becomes a part of this. What are their last wishes? What do they want? Who do, you know, what do they envision? If they put it in a will, the will isn't read for 3 or 4 weeks after they die.
Yeah.
So it's got to be together with this.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, my grandmother was amazing because with my dad, when he passed, she knew what to do. Okay, she had the person. We just called them. They took everything. We it was all done. She had it prepaid. Everything was in. She told me exactly where everything was. So even though I basically had to do it myself, I didn't do it myself. I did it with her. she
told you what you
She had
wanted.
it all together.
Written out. And I
she
mean-
had it ready.
And
So.
and the thing, my grandmother, she prepaid for everything. She prepaid for a luncheon after the funeral
Oh
for
my
200
geez.
people.
That was so
and
good.
insisted that there would be no alcohol served at her
Okay,
luncheon.
okay.
Because she never, you know,
Right,
she was
right,
always
right,
concerned
right,
about
right,
people
right,
drinking.
right,
so
right.
she prepaid for the lunch and she
my
made sure that no
goodness.
alcohol would be
She
served.
even did better than my
I mean, she
grandma.
was like really, but you know, 95% of us say, you know, pre-planning the funeral is a good idea, and
Yeah.
you know, having that out of the way, and yet only 15% actually do it.
Yeah.
And, that's another thing. You can, even within that 5-year look back, before someone goes on Medicaid, you can prepay for a funeral, and that
Yeah.
is preserving that money for what you need it for.
Exactly, and that's exactly right, because they put that into the documents when you're filling it out, and you just put that. It's okay to have that prepaid.
Right, and you can do it the day before you sign them up for Medicaid.
It's
it
not
doesn't
an
matter.
issue. It was so good to have that Medicaid because everything was taken care of.
Right.
So, and I remember, well, my stepfather, I didn't even know he had the Medicaid. They had put him with the Medicaid. He had been in the hospital for about a year, on and off, because he kept on having pneumonia and stuff like that. Nobody knew that he had Medicaid. And they were paying the nursing home fees and all that. And all of a sudden, he had been with Medicaid for a year. So
the family was laying out that money.
Yes, exactly. Because nobody knew.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. They have to talk to each other. Everybody has to talk to each other.
He didn't even know.
Well,
because the hospital put it together for them. So and then
Did
they
the
had the
hospital know, or they were taking his money, or they didn't know?
They knew because they did it.
But the
what
nursing
happened
home
was
didn't.
the nursing
They didn't
home
communicate
know.
it to the nursing home.
Exactly. And then what happened was they had the wrong address. So all the documents were going to the wrong address.
Oh, no. Well,
So it was all compounded. It was
bureaucracy can foul things up very
oh my gosh!
easily.
Because I was actually going to go and get Medicaid for them, but then come find out he had it, but my mom didn't have it. So we could have had more time, but then again, they give you a hard time nowadays trying to give you time, like nursing time. He needed time, and he needed help, and we needed help, and they were very cheap with the help.
They were stingy.
Very stingy. 5 hours. That was it. I'm like, this man can't hardly walk, but they were giving 5
Well,
hours.
and then there's a difference between skilled nursing time and just
Well, we just wanted help,
Right.
but
Even
to
that
help
they
cooking
limited.
and what have you.
Yeah.
Because at one point, I would have, he's supposed to have 7 days, 5 hours. And on Sunday, we didn't get anything.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, I'm there on Sunday. And I'm taking care of both of them at this point. I remember one time, it was so bad. I had to change diapers. You're talking about changing diapers, cooking, this, that, and the other. But
it's like there becomes no shame
It's-
anymore.
it
You know,
is.
it's like it's okay. You do what you have to do.
You do.
And you think about the fact that they did this for you,
this
when
is
you were
exactly
a baby.
it.
Yes.
You
That's
know.
exactly it. Well, I'm going to say this. The time has
I know, I
gone
can't even believe that.
Oh my
so
goodness.
fast.
It really has.
And we have so much more to talk about caregiving.
Well, we'll
So-
have to have another visit.
Exactly. And Diane, you have to come back.
Yes.
Yes.
You
Definitely
know,
will.
so we'll have to talk about it
Yes.
and make it happen.
We will make it
Okay?
happen.
And maybe we'll have some more caregivers on too, because it's definitely something that everybody needs to know.
You know, and this would really be an ideal format even to
Yes.
do some phone calls.
Yes.
with
Oh, yeah,
people.
definitely.
Because I
definitely.
think people have a lot of
Oh, yeah,
questions and
definitely.
they're looking for answers.
Definitely, definitely. So I want to say thank you again for coming. And oh my gosh, I just can't believe, I don't know. It's going to be hard for me not to
I
have Diane
know,
here.
I know.
But
So I did want to let people know how to
Yes,
get in
please-
touch
yes,
with me.
please let them know.
You know, you can reach me at Linda Fostek, that's Fostek, at thecrisisplanner.com. And if you go to my website, which is www.thecrisisplanner.com, you can download a free checklist for an in case of emergency file, so of all the documents you need to put together and all the things that you should be looking to put together. And actually, that's thecrisisplanner.net, I'm sorry. And if you want to get a copy of And Now What, that's where you go to thecrisisplanner.com.
Okay,
So
cool.
either way, you know, you can get in touch with me, and I'd be glad to help anybody that needs assistance in figuring
give
out
me your
what they
telephone
need.
number too, or your your,
Yeah,
well, you have the website.
The
that's
website
good.
they can reach
That's
me.
cool. Okay.
It's cool.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And, I mean, the time went so fast, I can't even believe it.
I know. Well, thanks again for you all coming out and joining us for Passion for Life with Dee and Friends. And just come on out. And even though Diane's won't be here, but I will. And so come and enjoy our friends.